It's me again. I hope you enjoyed the last panel discussion with the leaders of such iconic global companies. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Treasury Secretary Stephen T. Mnuchin. I don't want to take too long to give Secretary Mnuchin maximum time for his remarks, but let me say that since President Trump signed the historic tax reform legislation last summer, which was importantly engineered by Secretary Mnuchin, our economy has soared. Because of the 40% reduction in marginal tax rates for businesses and international tax improvements, our economy is on a strong upward trajectory for the first time in a decade. Investment is increasing and jobs are more plentiful than they have been for many years. Trump administration has made historic progress in eliminating regulations and spurring investment. According to a recent Wall Street Journal article, the pace of cutting regulations is increasing from 4-to-1 in 2017 to 6-to-1 so far in 2018. Throughout this period of historic growth, Secretary Mnuchin has been a steady hand at the helm of Treasury, helping to lay the foundation for economic prosperity and promoting the President's jobs agenda. Secretary Mnuchin is the leading force in setting the nation's monetary policy and playing a big role in trade as well. His career in finance and management, along with his educational achievements, make him perfectly suited for his role in public service. Upon graduating from Yale, Secretary Mnuchin began his business career at Goldman Sachs. Stephen later founded several hedge funds and served as chairman and CEO for One West Bancorp, which he sold in 2015 to CIT Group. More recently, Stephen served as finance chair of the Trump campaign. It's my privilege to work alongside him in fostering investment and economic opportunity here at home and abroad. I think that when the history of the Trump administration is finally written, the world will recognize that Stephen Mnuchin ranks up there with Alexander Hamilton, with Mellon, and with the other icons of American Treasury historically. So it's my honor to introduce the 77th Secretary of the Department of Treasury, the person whose signature is on the very currency that you have in your pockets, and he's also my friend, Stephen T. Mnuchin. Let's give him a big welcome. Stephen.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to speak this morning, and congratulations to Secretary Ross on putting together another very successful SelectUSA Summit. I am pleased to join you today as we celebrate the 6-month anniversary of the passage of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which the President really wanted to name the Tax Cuts Act, and the most comprehensive tax reform legislation in 30 years. The bill cuts taxes for American families and made our business tax system more competitive. Companies of all sizes are now investing hundreds of billions of dollars in U.S. operations. We're also seeing millions of employees across the country receive bonuses, bigger paychecks, generous budgets, benefits, and new jobs. While the law is already having positive effects, we are also busy implementing it at Treasury. Our Office of Tax Policy and the IRS are working closely together to provide taxpayers with necessary guidance to plan for the future and accurately assess their tax liability. The IRS has published 24 pieces of guidance already, and they are hard working to release more over the summer. The Trump economic agenda, which includes tax reform as well as regulatory reform, has created the most positive economic environment in generations. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, known as the NFIB, is seeing record levels of optimism among small and independent business owners across sectors of our economy. The National Association of Manufacturers is reporting the highest level of confidence ever recorded, the fastest wage growth in over 17 years, and expected employment growth and capital spending at all-time highs. UBS reported that 66% of businesses are optimistic about their long-term prospects. The Consumer Confidence Index recently reached its highest level in 17 years. Importantly, the University of Michigan is reporting that confidence among households in lower third income tier has risen 11.4% since February. This reflects the fact that we are experiencing historically low unemployment, with 3 million jobs added, including 300,000 manufacturing jobs since the president took office. These numbers demonstrate that the president's policies are working, and we are on the path to strong economic growth that he promised the American people. There has never been a better time to invest and grow in your business in America. In the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we cut the top corporate rate from 35% to 20%. That means that America went from one of the highest corporate tax rates in the industrialized world to below the average. We also cut taxes for small business and pass-throughs, and the law permits businesses to deduct 20% of their qualified business income. The United States is moving from a worldwide system of taxation towards a territorial system, and companies can now immediately expense capital expenditure for 5 years. These are meaningful reforms that will put American companies on a level playing field with competitors globally and help them to invest and grow their operations here in our country. We have also focused on improving the financial regulatory environment. Over the last year, we issued a number of reports outlining our findings, recommendations for making financial regulatory conditions more predictable, fair, and efficient. We worked with our congressional and regulatory partners on a series of recommendations, several of which became part of the recent Dodd-Frank reform legislation. We are delighted that the President signed the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act into law on May 24th. The law is a significant victory because it was done on a bipartisan basis. It shows that Republicans and Democrats can come together to pass legislation that will make a difference for everyday Americans and lead to a fundamental, stronger economy. This law will enhance the flow of credit and support job creation and wage growth. It is especially helpful for smaller and mid-market financial institutions that are an important mechanism for small business. Of note, the Act raised the statutory threshold for enhanced prudential standards from $50 billion to $250 billion, with some discretion for the Fed to apply it to mid-sized banks. Among other measures, it also raised the supervisory and company-run stress test thresholds. The law strikes the right balance of maintaining protections for consumers and taxpayers while providing regulatory relief where appropriate. As we discuss foreign investment in the United States, I also have to mention the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, known as CFIUS, and the reforms we are working on relating to the CFIUS review process. We have an open investment environment in the United States, and we intend to keep it that way. We must also protect our national security. That's why we are pleased to support legislation that will modernize the CFIUS review process. Legislation now pending in Congress could expand CFIUS jurisdiction to cover those transactions of most concern that are not currently covered, including certain real estate and non-passive investments. The legislation, however, is still tailored to maintain our open investment environment. We are committed to expeditiously reviewing transactions, and we welcome the ability to do so in a way that reflects the rapidly evolving dynamics of our global economy. Our tax and regulatory reform efforts are opening up our already welcome investment environment. These measures complement our trade efforts, which aim to break down decade-old barriers to markets around the world. We are committed to working with our trading partners to modernize NAFTA, break down tariffs and other restraints, and to build stronger partnerships with other nations. Over the past year and a half, the President's policies have led to unprecedented optimism across the economy. Consumer confidence and business confidence are reaching new heights. Companies of all sizes are investing more in their U.S. operations. All of this progress is in large part thanks to the President's leadership on tax reform and regulatory reform. We are proud of the progress we have made so far, and I assure you, our work to create a more prosperous and secure future will continue. We invite you to join us in this economic renewal, to seize the opportunity to invest in America and to grow your business in America. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.